on record so that you can start the session itself. You please accept on your end. Today's session, we are going to have an interesting guest and two exciting interviewers joining us. Sit back, enjoy, and if in case you're somewhere you cannot talk or wave, use the chat function moderately, but would like to hear from you as you engage with us. I'll hand over now to the host of the session, and that is William. William, over to you.
Thank you, Steve. Oh, he forgot to mention what SAA actually stands for. SAA is the Sergeant at Arms. I think we borrow from Parliament. So he's in charge of everything, all the activity that happens in the Zoom Live, ensuring that everything is in order. So I would like to welcome all 31 of you to this TCON 2022 Zoom Live. The purpose of this TCON Zoom Live was to give you a sneak peek of what is to be expected at the TCON conference this year, 2022, where our theme is making the boss move. So we decided to seek out 3 boss movers who can inspire you on how you can make boss moves in your lives. So this is the second session. The first session, we had the opportunity to interview the district director of District 114, Mr. Anthony Wangondu. And today we are privileged to have another honorable guest whom I will be introducing shortly. So the lady we are interviewing today is the chair of the District 114 Toastmasters Leadership Institute. She's also the director of Africa Science Leadership Program, and she goes by the name Dr. Connie Nshemereirwe. Wave at the group. Connie, just wave. Okay. Accompanying me on the interview, assisting me on the interview would be the division director of Division B, Janie Mule. Just wave. Yes. So we'll thank you all for joining us. We'll commence the session. And to start us off, I'll go with this question. Connie, tell us who you are and what do you do?
Thank you very much, William. Hi, Janie. Hi, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here today. I cannot believe that I am being interviewed around a theme like boss moves. I'll do my best to let you know how I have been a boss in the last so many years. I would say that who I am in a nutshell is really an educator, first and foremost. I consider myself a leader, and being a Toastmaster is actually a big part of my identity as well. That's who I would say I am.
Okay. How about you, Janie?
Yes, thank you, William, Miss Connie. It's so good to have you. And I must say, for me, I feel quite excited to be able to be interviewing a boss lady at DTM. Now that just raised up my CV and and my reputation. Miss Connie, how long have you been a Toastmaster?
This year, 2022, I will actually be celebrating 10 years as a Toastmaster. I joined on 1st October.
Oh my goodness, good stuff. No, that's really good. Can you remember what inspired you to join Toastmasters 10 years ago, but especially what has kept you here?
Right, Janie, like many others, my then housemate badgered me. Invited me again and again and again to a Toastmaster meeting. And finally I caved and I went. And I had already been teaching for a few years by then. I didn't mention that in my earlier life, so I trained as an engineer, and then I found my calling as an educator about 3 years after I graduated. And then I had been teaching at a university for maybe 15 years. I taught at university for 15 years. But by the time I joined Toastmasters, I had already been teaching for 10. And so I thought, what could Toastmasters possibly teach me?
Right.
And when I got to this meeting, I was asked to give this famous 2-minute impromptu speech that you get in the table topic session. And I floundered so badly that I said, I guess I should join and hang around for a little bit and see what this is all about. And 10 years on, here I still am. That's how it went.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, it's a story for most of us. We think we know how to communicate. We think we have the confidence until we do our table topics. Good stuff. But Connie, what has kept you here for 10 years?
Toastmasters, incredibly, you learn so much. You continue to learn. You find that you can always stretch yourself. And I found that speech after speech, I grew in confidence. I had more stories to tell. I was always learning. And as an educator, I think being an educator, one of your core identity is also being a learner, because you can't be a very good educator if you cannot be a very good learner. And so I think Toastmasters for me gave me the opportunity to express my identity as a learner as well. And there's always, you always can improve. And that's why I stay.
Yeah, good stuff. We are always learning here in Toastmasters. William?
Okay, thank you, Jenny. So Connie, it was from a table topic session to now chair of the Toastmasters Leadership Institute. Could you take us through that journey from what happened in between? How did you transition through the leadership roles, club official positions up to this point?
Yeah. Right. The thing with Toastmasters is that you learn as you go. There, you don't join. You don't. For instance, I think in my first year as a Toastmaster, I had the responsibility of being the vice president membership of a pretty multicultural club, and I was at the same time a very shy person. I wasn't really comfortable speaking with strangers. Yes, William, I guess that sounds like me shy. But on any one day, a Nigerian might come to a meeting, or a Chinese person might come to a meeting, or a Colombian person might come to a meeting. And I was always thinking, oh my God, am I going to make a mistake? Am I going to say the wrong thing? But for that whole year, I was forced to come out of my shell, because I had to speak to the new members, interest them in joining, and learn how to smile at them and really make them comfortable. And so since then, that first role has really stood me in great stead, because I have found myself encountering large multicultural international audiences, and interactions with them have been much smoother because of that. So it's funny that the things that you do in Toastmasters teach you quite insidiously or build all sorts of skills. After being vice president membership, I went on to become vice president education for my club. I was area director, so then I had to manage a couple of clubs. And I co-sponsored the second Toastmaster club in Uganda, Bokoto Toastmasters, which is my club. I co-sponsored the first corporate club at Stanbic Bank. I've mentored dozens, scores of Toastmasters. And so my leadership has been growing through taking on all those roles, in addition, of course, to the many meeting roles that you take on, being the Toastmaster of the day, facilitating meetings, giving evaluations, and so on. And so when it came to being the chair of the Toastmaster Leadership Institute, I must say, actually, that first of all, when the program quality director-elect, then Gilbert Rutebembera, asked me to take on this role, I had never heard of it. By May last year, I did not know of such a role in Toastmasters. And so he told me, oh no, you'll be in charge of a little training for some officers, nothing heavy. I said, okay, why not? And I have to tell you, he grossly understated it. It was quite a lot of work, but I cannot complain about it because in my professional life, I'm also a trainer. And so as always, what happens for me is that the Toastmaster environment gives me the opportunity to try things out at low stakes, and then I can go and do them when I'm much more confident. So I found the opportunity of being TLI chair gave me the space to try all sorts of things in the virtual training environment, and that I could then transfer to my other life. So I really learned a lot. Not to mention how nice it was to work with Toastmasters from across the district. You all know how excellent Toastmasters across the district are. Their nature as people who really serve one another was really a big blessing to me, and I learned a lot from them. So overall, I think it's been great.
Okay, so Anthony, director of the district, shy. Connie here, shy. Are all boss movers supposed to be shy? What do you, Jane?
I think we come to Toastmasters to overcome our shyness, William.
Okay,
I
true,
suppose.
true.
And then we overcome it and no one believes we were ever shy.
No, yeah, that's true. Nobody ever believes you are ever shy. It's very interesting, Miss Connie, because you say you are shy, but I remember when I first saw you and met you here in the Zoom meetings as TLI chair, I was actually afraid of you. I was like, oh my God, this lady, she looks strict. She's serious about Toastmasters. She's serious about the training. But of course, with time, I got to know you better and I started stalking you around to learn more from you. Tell us, Miss Connie, the theme of this year's TCON conference is Boss Moves. If you would, please tell us one memorable boss move that you have taken so far. A real boss move.
Thanks, Janie. I will not be able to tell you about one I can. I have one, but it requires a lot of explanation. And maybe I'll come to it. I just want to tell you that as the self-confidence that one builds through being a Toastmaster for so long means that I have made uncountable boss moves in the last 10 years. Every time I'm part of an audience and quick Q&A comes and they say, who has a comment, who has a question, my hand is up first and foremost. And I always have a well-constructed question or a well-constructed comment. And so I'm noticed and people will come up to me later and it always opens lines of communication between me and them. And I always tell people also that by now, a lot of the jobs that come to me is because somebody heard me speak or someone saw me give a presentation or even just heard me ask a question. And if you can construct your sentence really well, you sound really intelligent, they think you're such an expert. And so, well, I'd like to think I am an expert at my expertise, but you can be an expert at something and fail to communicate it. And so I would say that being a Toastmaster has resulted in me making uncountable boss moves through the last 10 years.
No, good stuff. That is so good to hear. And honestly, Miss Connie, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. I want to make as many boss moves as I can. Are you therefore telling us, Miss Connie, that for you to have been picked to be the director of African Science Leadership Program, for you to be a co-chair of the Global Young Academy, you reckon this had to do with your communication skills and leadership skills that you learned at Toastmasters?
No doubt, Janie. People don't believe it. But I'll tell you, first of all, one of the benefits of being a Toastmaster has been that I have found my voice. Many of us care about a lot of things, but we do not have the confidence to talk about those things or the language or the structure to communicate that passion. And this African Science Leadership Program is a program that is meant for young men and women who have recently received their PhD and would like to see how they can serve their communities through this PhD. The program has been running for 7 years, and I was an inaugural fellow. So I was in the first cohort in 2015. I went on to become a mentor. I went on to become a trainer, and now I'm the director. And the program is still going. Why? Because I have communicated so clearly my passion for educational quality in this case. And Toastmasters allows you to discover your unique voice, your unique communication style. In my case, actually, it is storytelling. And so every time that I'm communicating my passion or anything in my area of expertise, it really grabs people and people get it and they trust that I can lead or I am a leader in that area of expertise. So I would say 100%. Everything, and I already mentioned that, for instance, even when I'm going to give a big keynote, many keynotes that I've given, I have first given at a Toastmaster club, I have received feedback, and I have done a much better job as a result. So when people see me speaking up there, they do not know all the support that I have behind the preparation of my speaking.
Oh, that is good. You know, Toastmasters and guests in the room, that is to say, you know, Agatha, Antonia, Diane, and everybody else in the room, we have hope of becoming directors sometime soon because we are Toastmasters. I mean, that is really good stuff. Now, Miss Connie, you are a distinguished Toastmaster. You are a director of African Science Leadership Academy. You have been a leader in the district as the TLI chair. So what next for you? What are you going to do next? What might be your next boss move in Toastmasters and in your career?
Really good question, Janie. I mentioned that what Toastmasters has enabled me to do is to express fully my identity as a learner. There are 11 paths in Toastmasters. I'm only on the first path. Because I was on the old curriculum, I'm only starting the new curriculum. And because one of the values of Toastmasters is excellence, every project that I do, I must do something new. I must stretch myself in one way or another. And at the moment, I am also setting up the first upcountry club in Uganda, in Mbarara City. So the opportunities to stretch myself there are plenty of them still ahead of me. And so just as I said about the uncountable boss moves, it's my next boss moves in Toastmasters in particular is simply to continue to say yes to the opportunity to take on new challenges, new leadership positions, new mentorship roles, new speech opportunities. It really goes on and on. It's endless. And so, yeah,
Now
I'm looking forward to it.
Good. That is so good to hear. Toastmasters, you have had it. There is always something to learn in Toastmasters. There is always room to grow. So if you are thinking about taking a break come July 1st, you want to think again because you haven't learned everything there is to learn. You haven't grown to your maximum potential. William?
Thank you, Jenny. Okay, so Connie, you mentioned that your leadership style is storytelling. What you might have missed to tell us while introducing yourself is that you're a podcaster. You have a podcast with a very interesting title, A is Not for Apple. Tell us what you are aiming at while starting the podcast, and also tell us how Toastmasters has been beneficial to you in that journey. 4 months in.
Yes, I'll start with the latter question, William. How has Toastmasters enabled me to launch this podcast? The Toastmasters on the call may know that one of the projects that you do along the line is to create a podcast, and you also have another project where you learn how to facilitate a panel or to interview a guest. And so all these different projects culminated in me being able to launch this podcast earlier this year. And the podcast explores the idea that in African education systems, many times we start our journey with really strange concepts. And you can imagine a child in a small village in Uganda, for instance, the letter A is already a foreign concept, apple is a foreign concept, and you want them to start their learning journey by reciting A is for apple. And I have always been struck by this, and I feel that the way that they begin their journey reciting things they don't really understand is the way they continue their journey. The only way they can continue is by memorization, and I know that we all recognize that problem in our education system where a lot of what we learn, we memorize to regurgitate in the exams. So what A is not for apple is challenging is the fact that A as a concept is a letter. It need not be for apple, it can be for anthill, it can be for antelope. You can find ways to localize in very simple ways your own curriculum. And so in this podcast, I interview thought leaders, educators, researchers, scholars from across the continent so that we can think together about how we can transform our education systems towards benefiting us better and suiting our local circumstances better. And I must say that the multicultural skill that I gained in my first role as vice president membership is still growing and still helping me in communicating with men and women from across the continent. And so that's all about that podcast.
Very interesting, very interesting. You touched on a small bit that part of the curriculum in Toastmasters, you get a chance to build a podcast so as a learning experience to you. So most of us may think that Toastmasters, you just come in to present yourself on a public stage without no particular formula or properly arranged curriculum. And you are a scholar. Some people might not know that you have a doctorate in education measurement. Could you enlighten us on the curriculum that Toastmasters are able to benefit from? It's called the Toastmasters Pathways, and how it complements the actual presenting of skills and leadership roles through the journey in Toastmasters.
Right. I mentioned that I grew up as a Toastmaster in the old curriculum. I forget what we call it.
CC.
What do we call it?
Competent communicator.
No, yes, there's a way that they call it to say that it's outdated or
legacy.
Legacy, exactly. Legacy program, which I loved. It was a wonderful program. But looking at the Pathways curriculum, I must say that it is really quite excellent. It's designed in such a way that one can easily follow the instructions on how to carry out a project by themselves. It has multimedia aspects, so you will watch a video, you will listen to a testimony, you will have directions step by step on what you should do. There are all sorts of worksheets. And so you can very competently prepare for a project and deliver it. And the other beauty about the Pathways is that it builds on competencies from earlier projects. And so you grow in an orderly fashion. You learn the basics and then you add to that various other competencies. But also another big strength of the Pathways curriculum is the choice it gives you, because we all do not have the same interests. And so I think that's another really great strength of the Pathways curriculum. Legacy program enthusiasts will kill me if I say that I think it might be better than the legacy program, because in the legacy program we were all meant to follow exactly the same path and complete in exactly the same way. But I think it's a fantastic curriculum.
You could mention what I'm an innovative planner. My path is innovative planning. What is your path?
My current path is visionary communication, actually. Because I have such a strong vision for education in Africa that I wanted to hone my skills on how to communicate that vision and sell it.
Okay, fine.
That's my current path.
Jamie.
Yeah, thank you, William. Thank you, Miss Connie. I mean, good stuff we are getting from you. There's one thing you haven't mentioned, but I know, yes, you are a Toastmaster, you're a director and all this, but you're also a businesswoman, right? So if you could just quickly tell us some of the skills that you have picked from Toastmasters that are helping you in your business.
Correct. So my role as director of the African Science Leadership Program is only a 50% role. And I must say Toastmasters takes up a lot of my time as well. Some days it's like a full-time 100% job. But I must say that one of the benefits that have come from being a Toastmaster is that confidence that one gains in their own ability to be independent. And I was a lecturer for 15 years, a university lecturer for 15 years, but as my confidence in my voice and my ability to communicate my vision and my ability to carry out training in leadership, in communication, in science writing and things like this, I believe gave me the courage to step out and become self-employed. And so when you even hear about me running a podcast, the fact that I can pick and choose what I do while having the backbone of my 50% role as the director of the Africa Science Leadership Program means that I can carry out all sorts of projects such as this podcast. It obviously doesn't pay, but it's part of the way in which I communicate my vision to the world. But it's also part of the way that people get to know about what I'm passionate about, what I'm good at, what I can do for them. And it is also, in the end, a vehicle that brings me work as a trainer. So add the role of the chair of the Toastmaster Leadership Institute, which gave me the opportunity to train more people than I would have ever trained ever in my life. At one time, I think I once had a training for 300, 400 people online for 4 hours straight or something of the sort. And I had to coordinate various trainers. I had to arrange for the program. I had to work with the SAAs and the technology and do the publicity. And so there are so many skills that come out of this voluntary unpaid work that I can transfer to paid work.
Right.
So
no, that is good stuff, because what I'm hearing and what I want to say to our Toastmasters in the room and the guests, that not only will we learn communication and leadership skills, but it looks like we will make money courtesy of being a Toastmaster. So Rahab in the room and Gidinji and Kevin and Terry and Syria, be of good courage. You will make money as a result of Toastmaster. Good stuff. So Connie, listening to you, we are getting a little bit, of course, of just exactly how busy you are and how much you have to do at leadership levels. So, my question to you, and it's a cliche question, but how do you balance it all? How do you get to think about the African Science Leadership Program and then think like the TLI chair and then think like the other global thing that you're also a co-chair and then think about your business and think about family and everything? How do you do that? And when I look at you, actually, you don't look crazy, you don't look like you're going crazy. So how do you manage all this?
One, I have two principles by which I live, and I shared one of them with you when you asked me to be on this interview, and that is that fortune favors the bold. And I don't concern myself with worrying about what might go wrong. what I might not get, I have the mindset that there's plenty in the world for me. And so I take my time with accessing different opportunities. I really make sure that my plate is always not too full. And so I have learned to say no. Sometimes we say yes to all sorts of opportunities because we think they might dry out. But I really believe that there is a lot in the world and it's still coming. So I don't have to burden myself with everything that comes at me now. That's the first thing. The second thing is I feel that in the time that I've been able to express what my vision is, what my passion is, and to connect to a community of people who feel as passionately about what I feel passionate about, has meant that I have become clearer on what I should do. And so many times I think we end up doing this, and the other because we are not that clear on what we should do. And so sometimes we end up in projects and in places that don't really take us forward. And so I'm quite clear on my vision and find that I only choose projects or say yes to things that directly contribute to that vision. And so in the end, it turns out actually that I have quite a relaxed life. It looks like I might not because of all the roles that I have, but I'm very, very intentional on making sure that my plate is not too full, but also only saying yes to things that directly contribute to the very clear vision that I have.
No, that's very good. And we are used to hearing say yes, but it's actually okay to say no. So Steve Miner, be prepared. The next time you ask me to take a certain role, I'm going to say no, if it's not in line with my vision. Thank you very much, Miss Connie. Over to you, William.
Fortune favors the bold. I think that's one thing we can take from you, Connie. As a boss mover, you have to be bold enough to take that step that you want to take. So we want the audience to be bold enough to come and join TCON 2022. But Connie, would you welcome them? Tell them what you'd expect from TCON and also take this opportunity to welcome them to TCON 2022.
TCON for me is always a time of reconnecting with all the excellent Toastmasters across East Africa. It's a time when we showcase our best talent. Even at division level, sometimes I see the speeches, humorous, international evaluation that is on show, and it fills me with pride and admiration. It's always a time when you'll see the best of the Toastmaster skill that we have in the district. But it's also a time, and for instance, the theme that we have this year, making the boss moves. I love that theme. Well done, Steve. I know you're the convener. Maybe you didn't come up with it by yourself, but I always find that you learn a lot. You learn a lot from the speakers. It's a time of reflection, thinking about how, in this case, you might really make those boss moves. You get inspired by all the other people who are the embodiment of the theme of the conference. And so I would say, come along and you'll find that you benefit a lot.
Yeah, like you. Connie, a boss mover, will be at TCON. So join to get an opportunity to also interact with her.
Yeah.
Over to you, Jamie.
Thank you. I'm looking at the timer, Alex, and I'm seeing we are at yellow. Alex, is that correct? Are we at yellow?
Yes, 1 minute to go to the red.
Oh, 1 minute to go to the red. And then when I see red, I guess we have about 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. Toastmasters and guests, if you have a question for Miss Connie, this is the time to very quickly put it on the chat or just raise your hand. And Diane will see your hand up and then she will ask your question. But as we wait, Miss Connie, you've told us why we should come to TCON. Tell us in one sentence, for the guests who are in the room, who are not Toastmasters, In one sentence, Miss Connie, why should they join Toastmasters?
In one sentence.
One
Jenny.
sentence.
Listeners, Toastmasters is a very rewarding journey. And because of the wonderful curriculum that we have, you will begin to reap the benefits of becoming more confident and a better speaker and leader, even from your very first project, which is your icebreaker speech. So do not hesitate. It's an investment that will pay off again and again for years to come.
Good
That is
stuff.
that is one very long sentence, but
Right.
very true, very true.
I'm a good table topic speaker these days. Huh? I'm not like how I used to be 10 years ago.
Yes, that is true. Miss Diane, do we have questions in the chat, or do we have any hands up?
No hands up so far and no questions on the chat. I guess Connie was very clear as she was speaking to us today.
Now, that is true. William, I want to find out whether I have your permission to close, or do we have a question right there from my friend, Division Director, Division F, Wilson Asimwe.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Connie forgot to tell you that she was the first distinct Toastmaster in Uganda, and she has inspired so many of us.
Right. She was the first distinguished Toastmaster in Uganda. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yes.
In Uganda. Yeah, Connie, that's why I say when I grow up, I really do want to be like you, and I'm going to be a DTM just like you. I think we have another question from Moses Ratahigwa.
Rutahigwa. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Connie. Just one question for you. When you look at the 10 years of Toastmasters in Uganda or in East Africa, what makes your heart glad and what makes your heart sad?
That sounds like a table, very suspiciously like one of those table topics questions. I must say, funny enough, the thing that makes me sad and the thing that makes me glad is that very same thing. And that is, I think, the way Jesus felt when he saw all the lost souls that were yet to be reached. I'm so happy to see the ways in which Toastmasters has allowed people to grow in confidence, to find a community, to develop their skills and reach their goals. But at the same time, it's really a drop in the ocean. There are so many people that could benefit, and every day that goes by, the people that are not yet in Toastmasters are not benefiting. So that makes me sad. So we have a big job to do, but I'm also really happy at the quick way that we have grown. When I see the new clubs, the ones that are still coming, it makes me so happy. So it's just the same thing.
Oh, that is such a great answer. Yeah, that's a great answer. Okay, we have another question from Elizabeth.
And we also had one from June Keriri. She had raised her hand. So maybe after Elizabeth, we can have June. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much, Connie. As TLI chair, what would you tell a person who is hesitant to join club leadership?
Great question, Elizabeth. Club leadership is not a walk in the park. This is a fact. We are not going to sugarcoat it. And it is one of the most rewarding experiences that you can think of. I think that to benefit from Toastmasters, you know, there's a lot of benefit, but the same way that you go to the gym to lose weight or build muscle, you have to put in something. Anything worth having, they say, is not that easy to get. So becoming a club officer, many people look at it only as all the trouble you're going to have, chasing down members, having to go for meetings, but the amount of growth that occurs in the year that you're a leader, not to mention all the training opportunities that you have, and the responsibility, really, you grow up, you become so much more developed as an individual, as a leader. And so I would highly recommend becoming a club leader, 100%.
Good stuff. Good stuff. June Kariri?
All right, thank you, Diana. And in fact, I was clapping and not raising my hand, but and I know Diana is wanting me to speak, but Connie, thank you so much for what you've said. And like what Connie said and what the interviewer said is, yes, we grow as Toastmasters. I was a manager in my employment, and it is so different when you join Toastmasters. We grow every single day. I've taken up roles in the Exco. I'm currently the Area 5 director, and it is a joy to be a Toastmaster. And whatever Connie has told us, whatever she has said, you may think that you've grown in a particular area, but once you join Toastmasters, you actually wonder, I am probably still a baby. Sorry, I've said that, I'm probably still a baby. And yes, Connie mentioned the legacy program. The legacy program, we used to carry our manuals to the meetings and go through them. And some of us were hesitant to go through the Pathways program, but the Pathways program is so much more better, more versatile, and more interesting.
Right.
If I may say that, and Diana, I'll hand over back to you because you've caught me off guard. Back to you, Diana, and Janie, Connie, William.
Good stuff. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Miss June. Diane, I want to say I can see Wageshi's hand up, and probably that's the last question or comment we are going to take. And then we are
There
going to
is just also one more on the chat, then if that's okay, and then we can close it after Wageshi.
Okay, ask us the one on the chat and then Wageshi, and then I'll close it.
Okay, so let me ask the one on the chat. It's by Baldwin. Okay, sorry, give me a second. Yes, so the question was, Connie, what else makes you turn up every day besides being bold? I think you are a viborg, as you don't seem to burn out.
Okay, shall I take Wangeshi's as well, or shall I take Baldwin's?
Yeah, maybe let's do that. Wageshi, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, she can combine the questions. Thank you so much, DTM Connie. That was so inspiring. My name is Wangeshi from Untitled Toastmasters. My question is, I thought you touched on being the, no, what was that? Fortune favors the bold. Could you just explain that a little, expound that a bit? I thought you expounded on other things and not as much on that one. And I really liked your point about not overscheduling oneself.
Right. Yeah. Okay, Baldwin, how is it that I show up every day? 10 years in, the benefits of Toastmasters continue to follow me. Not long ago, and recently in the last 2 or 3 years, complete strangers ring me up and say, so you speak at such and such a place, and we would like to have you come do ABCD for us. The first reason I always show up is the rewards of Toastmasters keep on coming. But in addition, Toastmasters for me really suits me as an individual because it always has the opportunity for me to grow, to stretch, to learn. And this is something that I almost cannot help myself doing. So I think intrinsically, the Toastmasters program is just made for me. That's what I would say, Baldwin. Wangeshi, fortune favors the bold is something that I have lived by for a good number of years by now. And it shows up in all sorts of ways. And I mentioned earlier that when I'm in an international meeting, or even now, when they say, Connie, come and interview for TCON, it's a pretty daunting thing to come around and say, okay, so for boss moves, I'm the interviewee. It's a little bit conceited, you might say, but I have to be bold. I have to say, yes, I'm a boss. I'm going to be interviewed. What I have to say is of value, and I'll come along and say it. But similarly, when I'm in any other fora, I'm not one of those shrinking violets anymore. I sit at the front, I make eye contact with whoever is speaking, I listen attentively. Actually, another wonderful attribute, another wonderful skill that Toastmasters teaches you. I give really warm and constructive feedback. I get the opportunity. I mean, I'm bold, and so fortune favors me, and so that's why I live by that saying.
Also, she said a very bold statement. Toastmaster was actually meant for me. That is a very bold statement. So before we proceed on to the next session, we could have Steve bring out the polls so that we can have that one question, then Jenny could close.
Thanks, William. But prior to that, there is one question that was sent to me. Unfortunately, the chats were locked to only hosts and co-hosts. And it could be that the actual question was delivered in such because it is a little bit sensitive. We say feedback is breakfast for champions, but the question being posed is, how does a person deal with destructive criticism? As some evaluators don't have those skills to elevate a person, and their evaluation can sometimes eliminate your morale. Connie,
That's a very good question. It's a very good question, and it's really relevant. I have seen people leave Toastmasters after a pretty harsh feedback or criticism that they received. Again, it's an environment that we have to understand that not everybody, when they first join Toastmasters, and even when they're there for a while, really internalize the mission of Toastmasters, which is to provide a supportive and positive environment. If you observe that somebody is not being that supportive, you must steel yourself to disregard what they are saying. That's the first thing. The second thing is, as members of a club, it's also up to us to contribute to the positive environment within that club. If it's possible, you can have someone in the club speak to such a person and let them understand how they should support you and create a positive environment. But thirdly, of course, understand that, yes, their skills at evaluating are low, just as yours were at one time or yours are now. And so when they are speaking, just be open, be calm, and let the gems that are coming through come through, and try and disregard the rest. It's just how it goes.
Good
but with
stuff.
time, such a person would improve, I expect.
Good stuff. Thank you, Connie. Steve, do we have the poll? You want to run the poll?
Yes, running it for 20 seconds.
For 20 seconds?
Yep, it is.
Toastmasters, apologies that we have gone over time, but there is the question. Kindly take the polls like I'm doing right now.
Thank you.
I'm also taking the poll. Okay, I'm personally on the full question.
Have participants.
Are we good, Steve?
Almost at the 50 percentile.
Okay, Toastmasters guests, please take the poll. Maybe another 10 seconds. And I guess the poll is still there, so you can continue to finish, but in the interest of time, Miss Connie, Miss Connie DTM, we cannot say thank you enough. We cannot. But anyway, I'm going to try and I'm going to say thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for being vulnerable. And thank you for sharing with us what you have done with Toastmasters and what you will do in the future and what we all can aspire to do. We are forever grateful that you took the time and you came here. Of course, thank you to my co-interviewer, William. Thank you very much. Thank you, Miss Diana, because you invited me here to do this. And like Miss Connie said, you know, we are always growing. So I take this opportunity even for me to grow. Toastmasters, guests. Let me just say one of the two things that I'm taking away, as William said, fortune favors the bold. I mean, you know, that kind of sounds easy. All I have to do is be bold, right? And then the fortune is gonna come. So Toastmasters, I wanna say to Fiona, I wanna say to Samuel, be bold, okay? Be bold, and to all of us. And then again, she went on to say, she approaches life and she looks at the world like nothing will go wrong. Nothing will go wrong. So she approaches the life like that. And then she says, she doesn't concentrate on what she may not get. Toastmasters, why think about what you will not get, what you cannot be? We think about what we can be. And then she says, oh, and I love this, the world has plenty for her. Can you imagine? I wake up every morning and my first thought is, the world has so much, plenty to offer to me. Once again, thank you so much, Miss Connie. I want to say goodbye. I want to say good night. I want to say God bless you all. But I fear that I will not do justice if I do not allow our district director, Anthony Wangondu, to at least say hi and bye. But meanwhile, from William and myself, it's thank you, goodbye, good night, and God bless. Anthony Wangondu, if you would.
Thank you, Division Director Jenny Mule. It is always so lovely to see Connie on the screen. I love all the phrases that she makes. She's actually a bold leader, as she says. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you at TCON because then we get to hear even more bold statements that will encourage us and remind us that we are the leaders of this beautiful continent that we live on. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
See you at TCON.
Yeah, see you at TCON.
Good night, all. Thank you. That was a very great session. Good night, all.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
I'm Dr. Manoj Shah, a businessman and philanthropist. I'm the managing director of the Kingsway Group of companies, which include the Kingsway Tires, which is the flagship, Village Market Shopping Mall, the Tribe and Trademark Hotels, amongst others. I'm also the chairperson of the MP Shah Hospital and board member and trustee of many organizations. I can very vividly remember a story, and at the MP Shah Hospital in the year 2020-2021, we had immense crises dealing with the COVID pandemic and all the overflow of patients that needed help, and of course the shortage of oxygen and all the material and medicine required to save lives of many of these individuals. And one of the things that I learned from Toastmasters that I implied in my strategic move to salvage the situation at the hospital was hearing more and speaking less. And this would not have been possible if I had not had the opportunity of learning and getting my hearing skills from my own Toastmasters club. And the experience of attending TCOM, I'm sure, is the same as many of these big conventions, that I've had the opportunity to attend. In fact, the conventions are always a time to network with fellow Toastmasters, an opportunity to learn, to grow your skills and develop them, and of course, most importantly, the fellowship that we have within the Toastmasters that will be fostered during the TCOM. It is invaluable. Besides the outstanding speakers, the contest winners, and all the inspiring program of TCOM, I'm sure a lot of Toastmasters will benefit and get value just by attending many of the leadership sessions that will take place at TCOM.
Good stuff, good stuff. Steve, if you keep showing, we will never go away, so maybe we better go. Nicole Waweru, it was good to see you. Thanks, Bernard. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank
you,
you.
Boa, Toastmasters. Thank you, Eve. Thank you, guest Jessaina. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Esther. Thank you. Thank you and good night. Thanks, Alex, of course. Thanks, Rahab.